says the anticipated price hikes were not properly handled by government. CEO Bobby Ramahwede says the lack of planning has played a role in the panic being seen at the pumps. South Africans have been panic buying fuel over fears of shortages as well as increases due to kick in tomorrow. According to reports, the finance minister was set to announce that decrease to the fuel levy as well to cushion motorists this afternoon. That has been done through a statement. Speaking on the midday report, Ramahwede says this is a welcome relief.
The only real lever that we have available is to adjust the taxes. And the taxes in this instance are the general fuel levy, the RAF levy, and any other taxes associated with fuel, like carbon tax. So it's a great relief for us to hear that the Minister of Finance is strongly considering or has committed to reducing the fuel levy by 3 rand. This will go a great way to ensuring that the consumer is sheltered by these price shocks that the state was meant to be prepared for.
Total employment increased by 0.2% in the fourth quarter of last year. This has been revealed in the latest report by Statistics South Africa. Stats SA says this translates to 18,000 new jobs between September 2025 and December of last year. It says this was due to increases in trade, business services, while electricity remained unchanged, but there were decreases reported in some industries such as construction, manufacturing, community services, as well as mining. Stats says Matlapane Masupie.
Total employment decreased by 102,000 year-on-year between December 2024 and December 2025. Full-time employment increased by 14,000 quarter-on-quarter from 9,420,000 in September 2025 to 9,434,000 in December 2025.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has reaffirmed South Africa's commitment to remaining accountable to its investors. Ramaphosa was delivering the keynote address at South Africa's 6th Investment Conference in Sandton today. The conference returns after a 2-year hiatus, with anticipated pledges seen as vital to driving economic recovery and long-term growth. Government is looking to raise 2 trillion rand by 2028. Ramaphosa says government will ensure that every pledge translates into real progress for the nation's economy.
This year's South Africa's investment conference takes place against a backdrop of growth as well as recovery. Investment conferences such as this are an opportunity for us to showcase the attractiveness of investment opportunities in our country to domestic and international investors.
We shift our focus to this now. The appointment of Andy Mothibi as National Director of Public Prosecutions has been upheld by the courts. Law firm B. Xulu and Partners Incorporated approached the Gauteng High Court seeking to have Mothibi's appointment overturned. It argued that the advisory panel appointed to select candidates was unconstitutional. Mothibi, who was appointed by President Cyril Ramaphosa in January, was not amongst those interviewed for that position. The court has affirmed that the president has the authority to appoint any candidate he deems suitable. Nkosikhona Malingamnisi reports.
Law firm Xulu and Partners argued that after an advisory panel failed to recommend a candidate, the president had 3 options: to end the panel process and find another way to decide, extend the former NDPP's term, or call for new nominations. But the court rejected this, calling the options speculative. It says the president had already made it clear, both publicly and through the state attorney, that the panel's work was finished. In its judgment, the court found the president's attempt to seek the panel's advice had effectively failed. It also dismissed the firm's claim that Ramaphosa was required to appoint a new advisory panel before selecting Shamila Batoyi's successor. The court says the Constitution allows the president to govern without unnecessary procedural delays, adding that he was not obliged to use another panel. It noted that time was running out, with the incumbent's term ending in January. The court says Mothibi's appointment, whose qualifications are not in dispute, points to a rational decision. Eyewitness News.
And in Japan, French President Emmanuel Macron has arrived for a visit that is expected to be dominated by the Middle East war. Macron will hold talks with Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi tomorrow. The visit was initially aimed to strengthen partnerships in nuclear energy and space innovation between the two countries. Japan depends on the Middle East for 95% of its oil imports and has had to dip into strategic stockpiles since the start of the war. In February, Israel and the U.S. launched an attack on Iran, marking the start of the latest tensions. This resulted in retaliatory strikes from Iran, mostly targeting the Gulf region. Gold is trading at $4,562.11 an ounce. The rand is at 17.13 to the dollar, 22.63 to the pound, 19.65 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $114.43 a barrel.
Well, at this stage, if you're traveling through the Joburg CBD, slow-moving traffic, M2 westbound between the Crown Exchange and Main Reef Road. Also in the Melrose area, slow-moving traffic on the M1 northbound. That's heading towards Sandton from Ethel Oaklands to Greyston, and in the Centurion area, we still have slow-moving traffic. This is on the N14 northbound approaching Weerde Road.
The top story in EWN this hour, the Energy Department has announced the latest fuel price adjustments for April. Both grades of petrol will increase by R3.06 a litre.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Relebogile Mabotja
Live, streaming countrywide
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 1 o'clock, welcome to 7:02 Afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja, on this Tuesday, the 31st of March, the last day of the first quarter of the year. And I think we haven't done too badly. Some issues here and there, but we shall be okay. Coming up on the show, I want to ask you quite a simple question. And it is this. Is faith strongest where life is the hardest? Is there a direct correlation between struggle and faith? That's it. If things were to become better for all people in South Africa, would that reduce the level of faith that is there? And you can directly interpret that as being able to measure it by religions and churches and things like that. I want to find out from you if that is the case, and maybe share on your experience that what happens to faith when life becomes better and life becomes more secure. Our tech feature will speak about the new AI fraud defense that is launching in South Africa as deepfakes fraud escalate. Matthew Rennery will join us for that conversation, co-founder at Certified AI Access and former Morgan Stanley MD. And then the second hour of the show, our series edition on different types of retirement. It is episode 4, our last episode, and we're talking micro-retirement. Wayne Heller van Rensburg will join us, Executive Director at the IRFA, that's the Institute of Retirement Funds Africa. And then we wrap up with our car feature, and today we talk about what it is you need to know about Code 3 vehicles. And we'll be joined by Kreben Reddy, founder and CEO of Credo Mobility, for that conversation. Get in touch with us, 011 8830702, SMS us 31702, tweet at Relebogile M, at Radio 702 using the hashtag 702 Afternoons, and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Mabotja
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The question is simple. Is faith strongest where life is hardest? And what happens to that faith when life becomes more secure? So there is a way that you can look at your own life and sort of follow the pattern. Now, let me be clear. When I say faith, it can really encompass so many things. It can be your religion. It can be your belief in God. It can be the church, whatever it is that you consider faith. Now, is your struggle and life hardship related to the faith that you have? And if you look at the different countries around the world where religion is a very big part of society and community, are those places countries where people are struggling or not? Do you observe and think to yourself, where there is struggle, you will find faith? Now, there have been many people who will share the view that in South Africa, the reason that people can come through and open a church and take advantage of people and promise them the moon and the stars is because of kala, hunger, desperation, and where faith is providing that certain comfort of your day is coming, it will find itself in places where people are struggling. But what happens then if struggle is no longer there? Are you a person who found your faith, whatever that is, God, Allah, Buddha, whatever it is, in desperation? And if things did not reach that point, would you still be a person of faith, however you interpret that? But I'm so curious, because there's no country that is alive with possibilities when it comes to churches like South Africa. I'm pretty sure I could post on my Facebook today that I'm opening a church and people would come. Not just because of the fact that Relebogile is a public figure, not just because of the fact that my life is a certain way, but because there is that hope that, oh, maybe if I do whatever she's doing, she's a testimony, let me go and join that church. And of course, you can have faith without necessarily going to a church, right? We're all aware. You don't need somebody to interpret your text, your religious text for you. You can develop that relationship on your own, be it the Bible, the Quran, whatever it is you believe in. But I want to hear from you when it comes to faith. And then, this is such an interesting thing. Listen to the statement. When Africans go abroad, they stop being religious because the government systems there provide 90% of what their prayer requests. When Africans go abroad, they stop being religious because the government systems there provide 90% of what their prayer requests. Now, this statement is a quote by Trophy Kiprono, and this went viral earlier this year, reflecting the perspective on the intersection of governance, poverty, and religious practice, particularly in Africa. And this individual is a Kenyan communications specialist, a public speaking trainer, a content creator, and a whole lot of other things. But I'm so curious from you, what are the things you pray for, huh? And how many of the things you pray for could be solved by a healthily functioning government that takes care of its people? Is it around employment? Is it around finances? And what would change if all these issues got resolved? When you look at the Nordic countries, for example, where there are, I don't want to say there are no issues, but their issues are not as dire as ours, you will find that religion is not necessarily big like it is here. So what does that say about faith? Maybe you can also ask the question, what does that say about religion? And what does that say about prayer? Are you guys even praying for your country? That is the question. 011 883 0702. and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
This Easter weekend, 702 brings you more than great conversations. So, stories and sounds to carry you through your long weekend. Whether you're on the road, gathered with family, or stealing a quiet moment for yourself, we're right there with you. From Good Friday through to Easter Monday. Enjoy special holiday programming to keep you connected, entertained, and completely at home. Join Kenny Maestri from 10 a.m. Bushaza Sibia from 2 p.m. Richard Nwamba from 5 p.m. and Notemba Madumo closing out your Easter Monday from 5 p.m. Wherever your Easter takes you, take 702 with you. Stream 702 live on the Prime Media Plus app. This Easter, 702 is with you. 702. Let's walk the talk.
Aziz Shege, be in the game. Show your love for D-Ski with Hollywood Bets. We're taking the soccer season to new heights. You could win a share of 4 million rand in cash and prizes, including an all-new Toyota Hilux double cab or Toyota Starlet Cross. All you have to do is bet 10 rand or more on any soccer fixture online or at your nearest branch. Bet now and strike for glory. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Gauteng is currently experiencing high water consumption. To avoid water interruptions, residents are urged to use water sparingly to allow equitable supply. Act now, save water. Every drop counts. This message is brought to you by the Department of Water and Sanitation, Rand Water, Gauteng Provincial Government, City of Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, and City of Ekurhuleni.
Stuck in traffic again? It gives you time to think. Is the real scent of Mzansi that first rain on hot bricks vibe? Or is it Sunday morning cook sisters and coffee? Don't let the debate stall. Settle the score and tell us your hashtag the smell of Mzansi on Amuco's social media pages. Brought to you by Amuco, a product of Orstel Pharmaceuticals.
Small business owners speak a language of their own, and it's a language MTN Business and 702 understand very well. That's why we are celebrating SMEs who walk that entrepreneurial talk in the 702 MTN Small Business Awards. From the townships to the suburbs and everywhere in between, small businesses are proving that big things can grow from bold ideas. And if that sounds like your business or one you know, go to primemediaplus.com to enter or nominate them. Because once we start talking about your business, who knows how much further it could go. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Let's talk shop. T's and C's apply.
702 Afternoons
With Relebogile Mabotja.
18 minutes after 1 o'clock, and we are asking a simple question. Is faith strongest where life is hardest? And what happens to that faith when life becomes more secure? After the statement that was made by Trophy Kiprono, who said, when Africans go abroad, they stop being religious because the government systems there provide 90% of what their prayer requests. 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 and 702. And you can also look at your own life and observe, hey, my faith became stronger when this was happening, or these are the things I am praying for. And if things became okay, that, hey, maybe life would be a little different. So I'd like to hear from all of you. Thabo Butani says, yes, this is true. Often people's faith becomes weak during comfortable times. Faith is like a muscle. The more it is challenged and used, the stronger it grows. Tumi Mango says, faith without action is dead. In this time and age, you can't pray and wait for manna from heaven. Otherwise, you will shout amen every single Sunday. Baloyi says, perseverance is the strongest faith than ignoring hardship and expect miracles. That is coming through from there. And some of your messages and voice notes are coming through on 072 702 1702.
Hi, Relebogile. Shumani here. Yeah, Relebogile, there is a thing called faith and there's a thing called desperation. sometimes you find out that it's no more like it's because of faith. You know, when you are when things are not good in your side, you don't run for faith, just run for faith. But first thing is you are desperate. You become very desperate, and then in somebody's mind, you think of faith, and then many people, they can do anything to be in a better position.
Good afternoon, Relebogile. It's true that faith is at its highest when life is tough, because even with us ordinary Christians, generally we pray when we are in trouble or when we have a problem. It doesn't happen often where we just pray on a good day and thank the Lord for whatever is done for us. So I agree that faith or religion would be higher when life is tougher.
Faith or religion is higher when life is tougher. After doing Relebogile, I think it's a lack of reading and studying the Bible. Most Christians rely on Sunday service. I've come to learn that faith is a lifestyle rather than using it as and when needed. Okay, then I want to hear from the individuals who are in the work of faith, because my understanding, or let me rather say it like this. For me personally, my faith does not change when I am desperate, in the sense that my name, I try to live my name of Relebogile, being thankful. So if anything, I am constantly in a state of gratitude. And for me, that is more my prayer than it is that of asking. At the same time, I may not have been in a desperate enough situation to be able to pray otherwise. So that for me is that when things are going well, you still pray, because prayer is not necessarily about asking for things. It can also possibly be, use me. I'm asking you to tell me what I should be doing, how I can be used. But I kind of am feeling like this is possibly true. This is possibly very, very true in what we see with what is happening in our country and the different types of churches. Why is it that there was a time where spraying doom on people was a thing? Why was that a thing? Like, why was that even a thing? There is a message from Marion Randberg, who says, if you believe that your faith is grounded in spiritual truth, rather than just wanting the old man in the sky to help me out when times are tough, then your faith will be strong in good times and in bad. Let's go to the Lions. Sammy in Centurion. Hi, Sammy.
Good day, Relebogile.
Yeah, bro.
Relebogile, I think it's got to do with how you were raised. Like, if you were raised to pray, to always be, like, biblical and all, regardless of the situation that you are in, then you just continue praying. You just keep going, regardless of the situation. You'll never stop. You always be grateful for what you don't have and what you're hoping to have, and always, even after you've had your achievement, you just keep praying, not because of, I'm praying because of convenience. You won't use your faith as something that you always turn to when you don't have something or whatever the case is. So I think there's people who, they weren't raised in a religious way. So somebody told them that, no, you know what, if you need this, you must pray. Then for them, it's like, I don't know how to put it. For them, it's like, okay, I'll pray if I'm in difficult times. Then if I'm not in difficult times, then I'll just take that Bible and put it in a storeroom. So I think that's how it is. Because even if you look at places like Italy, it's a country that is developed. You look at the Vatican, for example, it's got money. Italians have got high development index, high human development index, but they still go to church and all. You look at Roman Catholic Church is so powerful. So I think it's all based on your family background. There's people who they misuse Christianity. They think it's a thing to be played with.
And I think it's so interesting what you're saying. So would you imagine, Sammy, that a child born in a well-off family versus a child born in a poverty-stricken family, the one in the poor household is more likely to be the one raised in the religious home? And let's assume both parents are equally religious.
I think, yes, if that's what I'm saying. If like the one raised in a poor background, right, is raised with this idea that if you want to succeed in life, then you must pray. Then that's who they will be. Then later in life, when they become successful, they will abandon Christianity. Similarly with the one who's raised in a rich family. If they are being raised with this idea that no, you must pray in order to hold on to your wealth. Then if that's what they will do, they'll just pray so that they can hold on to it. So I think the parents must raise their children that, you know what, just keep praying because you want to remain an upstanding citizen. This is what you must do, regardless of who you are, regardless of what you've achieved or you haven't achieved. It's like love. You shouldn't love someone because you stand to benefit something out of it. You must just do it because you believe.
Thank you so much, Sammy in Centurion, sharing that it also has to do with how you were raised. Kolu in Relebogile says, when you walk with God as your father and friend, then faith is a way of life, not a card we pull when tough storms come. We've seen that with Israelites in the Old Testament. They'd fall from faith often, and God would let their enemies conquer them, which raises the severity of the storms. Then they'd repent and return to God to restore them. This pattern is in our nature. And another one says, faith is the response of the human spirit to the word of God. It has nothing to do with situation and circumstances. Your voice notes coming through 072-702-1702.
Greetings, my sister. I think the problem here, it started when the charlatans started to, get into these religion things, of which people are taught wrong. You pray only because you lack. So as soon as you have abundance, then you don't see this God as a provider. So that is the problem. So with me, I pray when I have and I pray when I do not have. Because the person I'm praying to, is the creator. That's my belief. That this is the creator. It doesn't change him whether I have or I do not have. That's my take. Thank you.
Hi, Relebogile and listeners. The thing of faith is very deep. For one, I grew up in a rich family. I went to school. I became a professional. I've never slept without food. We had cars at home. But I still got born again when I was 20-something, and I had already bought myself a house in a suburb. I was already get lobolad, so I don't know. Now I believe in Jesus. I don't know others. Anonymous. Pumalanga, thank you.
Good afternoon, Relebogile. With me, this thing of faith, especially the Christian faith, my belief is that those who go to church go there with a hope and expectation that they'll go to heaven. And also, like you're saying, hoping that when they go to church, maybe God in return would maybe bless them with money so that they can live better. I always base my thinking on those two. They're hoping to go to heaven when they're normal, or even lobbying with God to bless them with money. Thank you, Mbuyiseni.
Thank you, Mbuyiseni, not Ndlozi, because we can hear it is not him. Just after 1:30, time for your latest Eyewitness News headlines. We, of course, continue. Your WhatsApps on 0727021702. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Good afternoon. The Mineral Resources Department has announced the latest fuel price adjustments for April. Both grades of petrol will go up by R3.06 a litre, while diesel will increase by between R7.37 and R7.51 a litre at midnight. The department has cited various reasons for the increase, including higher oil prices and the war in the Middle East. At the same time, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has announced a move to temporarily cut the fuel levy. This will see the levy for both petrol and diesel decrease by R3 for the month of April. South Africans have been panic buying fuel over fears of shortages and increases which are due to kick in tomorrow. And the state is expected to oppose bail in the case against 5 suspected drug mules arrested at the OR Tambo International Airport on Saturday. The group is set to make its first appearance in the Kempton Park Magistrates Court this afternoon. It's believed the South African women were on their way to China via Dubai when they were apprehended with cocaine worth an estimated 5 million rand in their possession. Those are the headlines, this EWN and more at 2 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, leaving the Joburg CBD, you can still expect some delays heading towards Rivoli M2 westbound from the Crown Interchange to Main Reef Road. In Melrose, travelling towards Sandton, traffic sluggish. M1 northbound, this is between Ethel Oaklands and Greyston Drive, while in the Eldorado Park area heading towards Lenasia, there's slow-moving traffic. N12 westbound from the N1 to the Golden Highway, and look out for those faulty traffic lights. That's in the Midrand area at New Road and 16th Avenue. For the latest traffic updates, you can also follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
President Ramaphosa saying he has not been sleeping very much, nor has his finance minister, who is, of course, crunching the numbers to see what relief he can offer hard-pressed South Africans ahead of expected increases in the price of just about everything, principally fuel, fertilizer, and that means food. How badly are we going to be hit?
The price increase is quite a big shock. Today it's over $110 a barrel, so almost double the price that we saw probably a few months ago. So we do expect that it is going to be a hard hit.
How rapidly can we expect these increases to filter?
We wouldn't expect them to go up immediately. With food, I think it's longer term sort of impact, because that may be months away for some of the food products, only once fertilizer prices go up and transport costs go up.
James Hodge, the chief economist of the Competition Commission.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
To live wealthier, you need to be able to grow your assets. At Standard Bank Private, you get a team of internationally acclaimed financial experts to advise you on local and global investment strategies. Plus, being with a leader in home loans, you can start expanding your property portfolio. So, come live wealthier with Africa's best private bank. Apply online at standardbank.co.za. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Vodacom's Red Hot Deals presents ready-to-use home internet with 400 gigs of anytime data, plus a Vodacom 5G home router with up to 20 megabits per second download speed for just $399 per month over 36 months. Miss it, miss out. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
Dreaming of a home renovation? We see you. Cash Build and Capitec bring you the partnership that has both the quality building materials you need and access to an affordable home improvement loan with competitive interest rates and extended repayment terms. Apply in-store at Cash Build or any Capitec branch between March 30th and April 30th to stand a chance to win a 20,000 Rand Cash Build voucher and other prizes. T's and C's apply. Capitec is an authorized provider and FSP. Initiation and service fee apply.
702 was in conversation with pharmaceutical company Sanofi to find out more about respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, and how you can protect our babies and children.
RSV is the respiratory syncytial virus, right? So as it says, it's a respiratory tract disease. So it is a common seasonal virus that affects the airways and the lungs, so your nose, your throat, and in severe cases, it moves down to the lungs, and that can cause pneumonia, it can cause bronchiolitis, right? And that's really severe cases where infants are hospitalized.
Visit primemediaplus.com to hear the full interview. 702 in conversation with Sanofi. Together against RSV.
WhatsApp Relebogile on 072 702 1702.
24 minutes to 2 o'clock, and we continue with our conversation, asking if faith is strongest where life is the hardest. And the quote that we shared from Trophy Kiprono says, when Africans go abroad, they stop being religious because the government systems there provide 90% of what their prayer requests. I want to hear from you on 011 883 0702 in the WhatsApp line 072 702 on 702. And we have Pastor William on the line from Pretoria. Pastor William, how are you?
Yes, I'm good. And how are you, Mabotja?
I am good. Go ahead, Pastor.
Thank you. No, I've got one point. I just want to dispute the fact that Africans, when they go to Europe, they forsake religion, you know. I want to prove to you that in Europe now, the Europeans these days, they have nothing to do with church. But Africans, if you can go and check in Europe, you'll find that most of the churches are packed by African people. And also, if you go to America, I was opportuned to go to US in the past 2 years. I saw it. Most of the Americans, they are not interested with the church. And it is us African people, that are bringing back revival in Europe. Is it they are the ones who brought Christianity this side of the world? And nowadays, it is us African people who are taking the gospel, to Europe. So the person that made that statement, I'm here to dispute that, and it's not correct.
So let me ask you a question, Pastor.
Yes, you're free to ask.
Yes, when you see people struggling the most, the economy is going down, all of those things, let's speak about South Africa only. Do you find that your church is fuller, or do you find that it just remains the same, irrespective of how much people are struggling?
No, to some extent, I agree with the fact that, people's faith tends to grow when they are going through difficult times. That one is the fact. That one is there, because we pray more, because we are hoping that, maybe when I pray, my situation is going to change. Maybe if I go to church or if I go wherever, my situation is going to change. That one is true. It happens. In difficult situations, our faith is always encouraged, always grow, That one is, we cannot dispute that.
All right. Thank you so much, Pastor, for what you are sharing, saying that Africans are the ones that are bringing a church basically back into places like Europe and America, and not necessarily that the faith is being lost when they find themselves in those different places. Some of your WhatsApp messages. Hi, Lebza. I had to search countries with highest number of churches in the world out of curiosity for facts. South Africa doesn't even come in the top 50. But your topic is real, and the current state of affairs in the Gulf region has everything to do with what people consider to be their God-given belief. So you can be atheist and or agnostic all you want, as is your human right. Oksalayo, as in at the end of the day, when there's no oil because of religious reasons, we all don't have oil. Interesting observation there in connection. I don't know where to start. I'm thinking I'm lacking in faith because it's been years. Unemployed, I pray daily, but bad things keep happening. I don't know if I'm attracting bad things. My faith is shaken seriously. I'm going to let all of the listeners respond to that one and share what their thoughts are. If you feel that everything in your life is going badly and you pray daily. Anonymous in Centurion says, my take, I don't buy lotto tickets in the times I am not broke. Let me repeat that. I don't buy lotto tickets in the times I am not broke. Who? Chad says, faith is for the ill-prepared and those who haven't done the work. From Chad. Okay. Your faith is as strong as the test it survives. Another message there. Let's go to some voice notes on 072 702 1702.
Relebogile, the problem with faith as a means to an end rather than the end itself is that it is driven by material objectives, which when you receive or get them, like there's no incentive to continue going back to your faith. So in Christianity, I believe that faith should be the end. It should be a lifestyle. It should be a permanent decision rather than you trying to attain certain things from God. And I don't want to criticize the other faith systems or religions, but hey, they all sort of like sell you something in the physical world as opposed to giving you something spiritual, which is eternal also.
Yeah, good afternoon, Relebogile. Faith is things that is unseen. If we have faith as a mustard seed, it's written in the Bible, and a mountain shall be moved. So let us have faith and trust God for a breakthrough, a miracle, and our daily blessings in Jesus' name.
As we know, there's no evidence for any God or anything like that. It never has been. And no one's ever heard from him or seen it. So faith, in the absence of evidence, is by definition irrational. I mean, you don't believe in a car on faith. You believe in a car because you know cars exist. But with the gods and things like that, you have to believe on faith because there's just nothing, absolutely nothing. So yeah, there's a lot of irrational people out there, billions.
I think for me it's different. I grew up in a church family. I grew up in the family that started a church, one of the big churches in South Africa. And I was in church ever since I could still remember, up until around the early teenage years. And then I stopped going to church because then, not that I stopped believing, but something else took direction. So I use law of attraction to guide me, just like you Relebogile saying that you use your name as a part of law of attraction. You are always consistently thankful for whatever you have. I use the same way. So law of attraction works for me.
Oh,
faith is for those who believe. It's not meant to be understood. Faith is only for the believers. Wherever you believe there is faith, then yeah, that's it. It's not meant to be understood. If you don't believe in faith, it's fine. Move on.
Some interesting messages that are coming through. One reads as follows from Anonymous. In the Islamic tradition, we say, Alhamdulillah, praises are due to Allah. Whenever you are blessed and when you are tested and someone asks you, how's it going? You say, Alhamdulillah, ala kulli hal, meaning praise be to Allah. Under all conditions, tests of the variable faith is the constant. Thank you so much, and apologies in advance for the mispronunciations. Unemployment and underlying are the most reasons why people are always fasting and attending church services. But overseas, these two things are given by the government. Good day, Relebogile. Faith is not something you see with your eyes. It's the way of believing and hope that whatever you pray for is going to happen. Pochisho in Krugersdorp, what are your thoughts? Go ahead.
Hi, Ostebo. I'm gonna throw a spanner in the works.
Yeah.
My take on this is slightly different from I hear the whole concept of going through tough time and believe that you're going to get something when you believe or pray. But as human beings, we are a part of a larger we are connected to each other, to the earth, to the moon, there is a different terms to every belief. So we cannot really separate ourselves from the structure and how the universe operates or works. So when we often grow up and we have dreams, those are intended gifts that we're going to get in life or things that we're going to prosper into. So when we at some point forget our path, I would say that we tend to somehow lose contact or touch with what we're supposed to be. So the reconnection of it when going through tough times is the realization of the breakdown of the connection that we have. It may be to the God that we pray in Christianity or whatever name we give to the power beyond ourselves. So it's not that we pray more when we may be desperate or going through tough times. I think it's a realization of the breakdown of the connections and the thing that used to keep us going and the lack that some people may put through. So it's a loss of connection with yourself that is big. Then that determines how deep or how far we go in trying to reconnect with yourself.
Pochisho, thank you so much. You explained that beautifully. Relebogile, I myself believe in the law of attraction and manifestation, reason being that the belief has saved me in many, many instances, more than when I used to pray to Jesus Christ, and that is just me, Keletso, in Germiston. Relebogile, God knows his people, he takes care of them, he rewards them. Not all prayers get answered. Amen. Hi, Relebogile. I have to comment on the Africans and religion in Europe. I'm based in Germany and I've seen so many Africans in Berlin preaching on the streets, most of them West African, especially from Ghana. I moved to Norway 2 months ago and I live in a small town. Here, Christianity is so prominent. I was expecting less, but it's the white people here. They love God and wear cross necklaces is what they are sharing. And lost Biggie from Facebook. Desperation induces last resort. Hope equals faith.
When you train for results, you don't quit halfway. Earn up to 7.35% interest with a Nedbank Just Invest account. Access your money within 24 hours. Keep your money agile. Get money fit with Nedbank. See money differently. Nedbank. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. We're licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
There are some things in life you can't replace. You know, the essentials. Dinners with the ones you love.
Dad, it's on fire.
Coffees discussing the ones you used to love.
It was standard 4, Mom. Time to let go.
Watching movies as you fall in love.
It's really smoky in here.
Get what you love for less with SA's best furniture essentials on sale right now at DecoFurn. In-store or at decofurnsa.co.za.
Every Easter, alcohol accelerates harms for families in South Africa. Our roads become deadly. Alcohol fuels violence and destroys our communities. This Easter, let's reduce the harms caused by alcohol. Increase excise tax above inflation. Excise tax is protection. For more information, follow the true cost of alcohol.
When you're running a small business, you need someone who speaks your language, who understands when you talk innovation, growth, scaling. Someone like MTN Business and 702. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards, from the townships to the suburbs and everywhere in between. We want to talk about you and your business. Go to primemediaplus.com to enter your business or nominate one you know. Because once we start talking about where you are now, you'll be well on your way to reaching your next. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Let's talk shop. T's, C's and more on primemediaplus.com.
702
Tech Feature.
10 minutes to 2 o'clock, and our tech feature for today. We are talking about the new AI fraud defense that has been launched in South Africa as Deepfakes fraud escalates. And really, we're all quite vulnerable to this. We're joined by Matthew Rinery, co-founder at Certified AI Access, for this conversation. Your calls on 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Matthew, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Relebogile. How are you? Thanks very much for having me on, and greetings to your listeners.
So I want to find out, maybe you can give us a lay of the land when it comes to deep fakes, especially for listeners who have never been exposed to it in any way. I think people are starting to catch on that when you see Donald Trump in a woman's outfit dancing at the gas station, pouring gas for Obama, you're kind of like, this is fake.
Yes. So look, I think it's a good point, but it's getting a little bit more serious than that. And so if I can just frame it for people, where we are is basically AI has obviously been a great accelerator for business, but at the same time it's been an accelerator for fraud, and it's entered kind of a new phase where, you know, from people would be opportunistic about how they executed certain scams or cybercrime, they're now doing it from a coordinated tech-driven perspective. You know, deepfake fraud has now kind of increased over the last, call it 3 to 5 years, by almost tenfold. And if I had to put a number on it, which I think is probably lower than what people will actually realize, is they expect it to reach about $40 billion by the year 2027. My guess is that's probably underreported by 10 times because of just the scale of this. And what we're really dealing with is something that is simple as this. The bad actors are now equally able to access what is cutting-edge technology at the same time as good actors. And that really creates a brand new risk as it relates to how both individuals, the consumer level, and then also how institutions need to kind of handle their day-to-day protection of their clients.
So if we look at then how extreme deep fakes can go, can you lay the land of how extreme they can be? Because we know that they are getting so smart that you can get a phone call that is from your mother, your partner, your husband, but it isn't from them.
That's right. And so look, the infrastructure and the capability that now exists on, you know, an individual with a $2,000 laptop and a reasonable amount of your voice recording, possibly even some still images of you, you can find that you can be fully cloned. And so what was traditionally a biometric fence, so to speak, like a security gate, identity was very difficult to replicate or to fake. And that's not true anymore, which means that there needs to be an awareness, which certainly the institutions of South Africa have done a phenomenal job of doing. The banks in particular have raised awareness over the Christmas period into the first quarter of this year. Yet that's kind of not enough. And the reason that's not enough is because of the sophistication at the attacker level, which is basically they can fully clone you, your voice, your identity. And so what was traditionally almost like a security gate no longer works, because that identity can be stolen. And I bring your attention to the statistics. South Africa and the provincial government of Gauteng had a hack it was reported over the weekend that something like 2 to 3 million identities were stolen inside that hack. That creates a broader problem, because those identities can then be used in ongoing, pervasive, and detrimental attacks, both at the individual level, but also at the institutional level, because those identities will be used to gain access to different corporates or to different accounts at different corporates, because that identity is now in the hands of the bad actor.
So now explain to us how this particular certified AI access works and how it can protect you or your business.
Sure. So we're in partnership with Reality Defender, a US-based, call it multi-factor detection technology. Essentially what it does is it uses AI foundational models, but essentially better technology than the bad actors have. And that sits right in front of your institution. So whether that's the telco, whether that's the bank, or whether that is your insurance company, they sit on either side of the conversation to ensure that those individuals that purport to be the individual calling that organization, so if it was me calling an insurer to make a claim, it's basically detecting whether that is a real voice or whether that is an agentic voice that's been essentially replicated or stolen. And the reason why you need this kind of preemptive or kind of almost like a security fence, almost like private security, if you think about it. You need this because because of the advance of what's happening on the attacker side. So it sits right in front of your most important institutions, government, private institutions like banks, and it protects the individual that if their identity is stolen, that bank, that institution, that government entity can determine that that voice is essentially an AI voice, not real, and therefore can either stop the call or divert the call to do further multi-factor authentication if it deems that that voice has been stolen. And the same thing for video. So if we were on a video call, the technology, without slowing down the call, without having any interference in the workflow, can determine that if I was on a video call with you and I told you that I was Matt, that you would be able to determine that I am actually who I say I am without having to kind of do multi-level checks to kind of make sure that I'm not an AI agent, so to speak. And so it's we're seeing some of the largest organizations on the planet adopt this technology, whether that's Interpol, NATO, Department of Defense of the US, JP Morgan, Orange Telecom. They're all using it to make sure that they are preemptively protecting their client base, and they're showing that they want to be first mover in the space because they believe the brand value moves up if they're showing the client base that they're moving to protect them. Yes, there's a lot of education that has gone on and a lot of education that needs to be consistently deployed, but it cannot be on the individual's responsibility to make sure that they are wholly protecting themselves. It needs to be a hand-in-glove relationship with their corporations like the banks of South Africa to kind of do this preemptive protection, almost like private security that works very well in South Africa.
And of course, if you want more information on this, certifiedaiaccess.com, or you can go to realitydefender.com. Matthew, thank you for your time.
In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
Rising tensions in the Middle East have pushed global oil prices above $100 a barrel in recent weeks. This surge is expected to drive up transport and food costs, and some residents say the impact will be felt most by those already living below the breadline.
They need to do something, or rather, they need to change how they look at the petrol price and try and see how it can actually help the normal South African.
Wow, crazy. I don't know what the people's going to do. So, yeah, hard times is coming up.
I did not budget for this, and it's a big possibility that I won't be able to come to work.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
Need a seat? Try 7 or 5, it's your call. Want a sunroof? Make it a panoramic. Gotta have power? How does award-winning 138 kilowatt sound? The Changan CS75 Pro is big enough for the kids, smart enough for your playlist, and stylish enough for your Friday night too. Why settle when you can have it all without compromise? The Changan CS75 Pro. Drive tomorrow's SUV today. Visit changanmotors.co.za for more.
Changan, driven to evolve.
Gauteng is currently experiencing high water consumption. To avoid water interruptions, residents are urged to use water sparingly to allow equitable supply. Act now, save water. Every drop counts. This message is brought to you by the Department of Water and Sanitation, Rand Water, Gauteng Provincial Government, City of Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, and City of Ekurhuleni.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
R5 a litre for petrol. Does that sound about right to you?
Maybe on the upper limit. I'm expecting at least something like R6 if we add everything else, BFP levies and the magistrate district zones adjustment. And on the diesel, I'm expecting anything around, R10, paraffin probably R11,
Sure.
LPG R5 per kilogram.
Abafani Trifalaro, the CEO of the Fuel Industry Association of South Africa.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show, Stephen Curtis, is brought to you by ABSA Sponsorships. For 20 years, ABSA has been a proud sponsor of the ABSA Cape Epic. And now they're giving you a chance to take your grit to the gravel. Join Team ABSA Cycling on Strava. Upload your rides and you could win one of 2 ABSA Cape Epic 2027 team entries. Because your story matters. ABSA is a registered FSP.
This Eyewitness News is brought to you by Momentum. Financial advisors help you have a better shot at generational wealth. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. It's 2:00.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini.
The Mineral Resources Department has announced the latest fuel price adjustments for April. Both grades of petrol will go up by R3.06 a litre, while diesel will increase by between R7.37 and R7.51 a litre at midnight. The department has cited various reasons for the increases, including high oil prices and the war in the Middle East. While the increases are slightly lower than earlier predictions, concerns remain about the impact on the cost of living and the broader economy. Department spokesperson Lerato Ntsoko explains on the additional increases.
Illuminating paraffin for wholesale will increase by 11 rands and 67 cents per litre. The single maximum national retail price for illuminating paraffin will increase by 15 rands and 60 cents per litre. Maximum retail price for LP gas will increase by 1 rand and 8 cents per kilogram and 1 rand and 23 cents per kilogram in the Western Cape.
At the same time, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has announced a move to temporarily cut the fuel levy. This will see the levy for both petrol and diesel decrease by R3 for April. South Africans have been panic buying fuel over fear of shortages and increases due to kick in tomorrow. The Automobile Association says a cut in the fuel levy is a welcome relief. CEO Bobby Ramahwete.
The only real lever that we have available is to adjust the taxes. And the taxes in this instance are the general fuel levy, the RAF levy, and any other taxes associated with fuel, like carbon tax. So it's a great relief for us to hear that the Minister of Finance is strongly considering or has committed to reducing the fuel levy by R3. This will go a great way to ensuring that the consumer is sheltered by these price shocks that the state was meant to be prepared for.
Total employment increased by 0.2% in the fourth quarter of last year. This has been revealed in the latest report by Statistics South Africa. Stats SA says this translates to 18,000 new jobs between September last year and December last year. It says this was due to increases in trade, business services, while electricity remained unchanged, but there were decreases reported in some industries such as construction, manufacturing, community services and mining. Stats SA Matlapane Masupie.
Total employment decreased by 102,000 year-on-year between December 2024 and December 2025. Full-time employment increased by 14,000 quarter-on-quarter from 9,420,000 in September 2025 to 9,434,000 in December 2025.
The state is expected to oppose bail in the case against 5 suspected drug mules arrested at the OR Tambo International Airport on Saturday. The group is set to make its first appearance in the Kempton Park Magistrates Court this afternoon. Proceedings have been delayed after the docket was brought to court without a charge sheet. It's believed the South African women were on their way to China via Dubai when they were apprehended with cocaine worth an estimated 5 million rand in their possession. Dimakatso Lishoro reports.
Prosecutor Takalani Makumo told Eyewitness News the docket was incomplete when it was brought to court this morning and is currently being updated by police. The 5 suspects aged between 25 and 48 were arrested on Saturday at the airport. Police say some of the cocaine packets were hidden in their private parts. Police spokeswoman Amanda van Veek says they have not yet established the syndicates working with the women.
Now that we are having them in custody or that we know who they are, further investigations will lead us to the networks.
Mukumo says the state will formally oppose bail. Dimakato Leshoro, Eyewitness News, Kempton Park Magistrates Court.
And in Israel, Parliament has approved a law that would make the death penalty the default sentence for Palestinians convicted of deadly terror attacks. The bill stipulates that convicted Palestinians would be executed by hanging within 90 days with a possible postponement of up to 180 days. The law passed by 62 votes to 48 yesterday, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu voting in favor. The Palestinian Authority has condemned the adoption of the law, saying it seeks to legitimize extrajudicial killings. The Association for Civil Rights in Israel has already petitioned the country's Supreme Court against the law.
Gold is trading at $4,562.12 an ounce. The rand is at 17.13 to the dollar, 22.63 to the pound, 19.65 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $114.43 a barrel.
Erasmus Park heading towards a Centurion. There's bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on the N1 northbound between Garsfontein Road and Rigel Avenue due to an earlier accident. There's also heavy delays. This is heading into the Joburg CBD coming from Riverlea. Expect about a 20-minute delay on Main Reef Road from Nasrec Road to Anderson.
It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng today with thundershowers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 27 and 28 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, the Mineral Resources Department has announced the latest fuel price adjustments for the month of April.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
They say the early bird catches the worm. Great advice, unless you're the worm. Generic so-called wisdom doesn't work for everyone, so I settle for a financial plan that's one size fits some. Momentum accredited financial advisors take the time to get to really know your unique situation. Advice meets your context. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
You're with Relebogile Mabotja.
Live, streaming countrywide
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Seven minutes after 2 o'clock, the second and final hour of 7:02 afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja. We are going to be jumping in this hour into our series edition. We'll be talking different types of retirement. It's episode 4. If you've missed the series, primemediaplus.com or download the app. We'll be talking micro retirement with Wayne Heller van Rensburg, who is Executive Director of the Institute of Retirement Funds Africa. Then we wrap up with our car feature, where we're going to talk about all you need to know about Code 3 vehicles with Kruben Reddy, founder and CEO of Credo Mobility. So get in touch with us, 011 883 0702, SMS us 31702, tweet at Relebogile M at Radio 702 using the hashtag 702 afternoons and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702.
Series Edition.
Series edition time. It's the final episode for our series in this month of March. And for this episode, on our series edition on different types of retirement, we are talking micro retirement. And I'm so excited for this one because guess what? You don't have to wait until you are 60 or 65. So tune in. And this is something that not everybody is familiar with. We're joined by Wayne Heller van Rensburg, Executive Director of the IRFA, which is the Institute of Retirement Funds Africa. Get in touch, 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Wayne, welcome to the show again. Thank you for coming back for another episode.
Thank you for having me here and excited about this topic, sort of nearly the flip side of the coin from last week's conversation.
Definitely. So I'm looking forward to this one, and maybe we can kick off right there as to what is a micro retirement. Because initially I'm like, it better not mean you're getting 100 Rand at the end of 65.
So I think it talks more about time than the money, hopefully. So when you look at the trend around micro retirement, it actually all started a while ago, about 2007, the 4-day work week, all these ideas of creating more time for yourself and doing things that drive your passion or are your passion. So, I mean, in a nutshell, a micro retirement is basically saying, I'm taking out time out of my life as it is at the moment to focus on something I want to do. Independence. I mean, that comes with a lot of extra things, but does that give you a sense of the idea? I'm stopping. I'm 35. I'm taking off a year to see the world. Yeah.
I almost thought of it like you are incorporating long-term sabbaticals into your career, but they are kind of mini retirements, and in the sense that maybe part of that plan is pursuing personal fulfilling things in that time, and not necessarily the sabbatical where you go study or maybe just take time off.
Absolutely. And I think, when we look at the positives that really can come with this, is if you plan it correctly, you could probably have a few of these during the course of your working life until you get to the point where you're no longer going to work, and have different reasons to do them. I mean, a sabbatical, or a pivot where you take off some time to learn new skills is one of the options. But when you look at the way, I mean, and not so many South African, but more, American, Northern Europe, or European influences, talk about that, following my passion, getting a new skill, just taking time out because I've burnt out. I mean, those are probably, I mean, they're probably as many reasons as there are people who need to take a time out.
So if we are, before we get into what this looks like in the South African context and what it would be realistically, with this new trend, are you finding that it is something abroad that is reserved for those that are particularly wealthy, or is it more attainable than we think? Because already places like Europe have a better work-life balance than what you might see in America, or possibly even in South Africa, where they take long summer breaks of 3 months, and we live in a country where it's like you got those two weeks, maybe 3 weeks for the whole year of leave.
So I think the reality is it really does come with having the resources, having the money in the bank to cover whatever it is that you need to cover, and then still be able to live. So in a way, for me to be able to make this decision quickly, I probably have to be wealthy already. If I'm not wealthy, then it's about another form of retirement planning, your micro retirement planning.
So, if let's say you're not yet wealthy, but the concept of, oh my goodness, I would love to take a little 1-year break in my late 40s, but I want to build towards that so that I can say, cool, when I get to, let's say, 45, I want to take a year off. And in that year, I need to build something to ensure I'm fine, and then be able to come back and continue my career. What are some of the things a person would need to start thinking about for that to become real? Because, I mean, so many people are even struggling to just put aside to go to Limpopo for holiday.
Well,
or KZN.
so like, you really want to start with that sort of rule of thumb when you speak to any of the people who say the kind of financial safety nets that we need. They'll tell you we probably all need between 3 and 6 months extra over and above what we for to cover our monthly costs.
Expenses, yes.
And then and if I'm then going to take off 12 months, I need to do the sum. So it means I need to have to cover at least, say, 15 to 18 months worth of income to cover all my basics. So that would just be how much do I need to save up. But I think the other important element there is, what am I going to do when I come back? Do I have my own business? Do I have an income stream, or do I have something to fall back on once I've taken my mini break? And that, as much as the saving is part of it, I think that's the other big part that we need to think about when considering the micro retirement.
And I think what you're touching on is so powerful, in the sense that you have to be in a fortunate position, not just financially, But what would it mean for you to take a break in your career if you are working for someone else and not necessarily running your own business, where then you put structures in place where you can dip out and you just come back like nothing happened?
I mean, some of us have skills that are probably very unique and we could easily take time. I'm not saying I'm one of those people, but, some people have those skills where, they can take off and then go knock on a door tomorrow and the door will open again. But I think for most of us, that's not the reality. I think for most of us, that additional plan is crucial for this micro retirement, for this time we're taking out.
So let's talk an ideal scenario of, is there or rather a compromise scenario? Is there a possibility that maybe your mini retirement looks like you being a digital nomad for a year, where maybe you just cut back so significantly that you only open your laptop once a week? Or is the concept of a mini retirement meaning switching off completely and then having to come back to a full-time career?
So I really think if it's something that a realistic option would probably have to be a compromise. I think very few of us have the ability to just, unplug and not worry entirely. So, some of the other options would really be to speak to whoever you're working for. If you are employed, can I get some time off? Can I work remotely? These are all the options you're talking about. I mean, and then there's always the big one, which at least for some people could work, is taking unpaid leave, and how long your employer is prepared to allow you to take that option. Realistically, remote working, if it's allowed, then a sabbatical or a unpaid leave type situation would be, the second option. I'm sure there are many others, but those are probably your two primary go-tos to try and make this a real thing for yourself.
Let's now look at South Africa, and not so much the financial part of what is possible, but more the mindset. I, in many ways, feel like corporate in South Africa is still pretty backwards in relation to where the rest of the world is now. This is just the perspective of one little old South African out of so many millions of people. But from what I can see, I'm seeing my friends who work in corporate being asked to return back to the office full time, being asked to, almost clock in. They've got things on their laptops that monitor when they're working. So I cannot imagine environments like that being open to the idea of a person taking a career pause, if I'm going to call it that, with the label of mini retirement. Because I just imagine a boss, irrespective of how many years you've put in that company, being like, not going to happen. Take it unpaid, and let's see when you come back if the role is still there for you.
Look, I'm not familiar with the HR practices of many businesses, but I think the picture you've painted is a very realistic one. If we look at and I don't want to go into whether corporate's good or bad, but if we just look at the traffic in our major cities, we can definitely see there's a return to the office for most people. And I think the reality here is that employers are obviously have to reconsider this if they want to retain talent, even if it's giving them some time off. As much as we have lots of unemployed people, we also have people where we need to ensure that we keep the skills that we've invested, or the skills that they have, and the time which we've invested in them as a corporate. So be interesting to do a survey with employers to hear what their thinking is. But the way you've painted it, I agree that that's probably the reality for most people.
Maybe let's paint the picture then, if we were sitting on the side of being the employer. If people started catching on to this concept of a mini retirement, the open liberal part in me is like, you know what, this could be great. You getting a reset, You might upskill yourself. You're going to come back refreshed, and you're actually going to be even a greater asset to this company. So maybe I'm willing to make sure that 3 of those months are paid because you've been loyal to the company for X number of years. All wonderful. But if I now have to go and report to the board and to crunch the numbers of what is the cost to company, how would that question be answered? Because it isn't just the part of maybe we'll pay a bit or nothing at all, but we'll give you the time and your job will still be here. It's who's taking on the load while you're gone. So the cost to company is not just the part of us losing you, it's the part of also having somebody do your work in the interim.
Do your work. Absolutely. So I mean, I think from an employer perspective, this is really a discussion you'd probably be having with a employer that has various has a larger employer that could probably easily absorb this kind of activity. I imagine that it's going to be much more difficult for smaller employers to replace me if I'm working a 4-man or 4-person firm. It's just not a reality. So there's really where you're going to have to start looking at your compromise positions. And I think the idea of micro retirement is amazing because I think all of us need a reset every now and then, maybe every decade of our lives. I'm in my 30s now. I'm in my 40s. I need to rethink a few things and have the space. But it just doesn't seem that unless you, the person driving it, that it's going to be a reality. And I think maybe what I'm trying to say here is that if this is something you are really considering, it's something you would have to negotiate with the powers that be, if that makes any sense, rather than relying on someone's kindness or niceness to do that.
Because I'm also trying to imagine if, let's assume it is a key, what is it called? A key man to the business. I can't find the right word.
Yes.
But if it's a key man to the business, can you imagine if the bank announced that a CEO is taking a mini retirement? They probably would not even be able to announce if it's going to affect the shares. They might have to say that the person's taking leave, and in the interim, there'll be an acting CEO. So how would the market, for example, respond to somebody taking a mini retirement? Would shareholders not be concerned?
My gut answer is obviously yes, but that also opens the opportunity to consider how you can do this for valued and long-serving employees. So I'm now walking away from us ordinary folks and those with the exceptional positions and skills. I mean, that would obviously be a significant strategy to retain those people rather than lose them entirely. I mean, and that's how I would sell it from my side to my board, saying valuable talent needs a break, and we'll have a housekeeper or whatever it is in the meantime until they're back. A great benefit for some companies. I can't imagine who quite yet, but I mean, it would be. Yeah.
So a thought crossed my mind as you were speaking. Let's imagine this really big JSE listed company or a multinational company where the CEO is going to take this break. Now CEOs have these massive bonuses, and we would assume that majority of them could leave the job if they wanted to. Is there the potential of the fear, whether it's a chief executive or somebody that is like lower management? Is there a possibility where there is a fear that this person on their mini retirement might decide, actually, I'm enjoying this, or I've found my new passion and I won't go back? And if that is the case, what would the recommended T's and C's be for a break? Would it be cool, we give you the year, but now you have to come back and work 3 years?
You know, and that's exactly it. You know, I trained as a lawyer, so I try not to be too loyally sometimes, but that would be it.
Loyally.
You'd have to be.
That's my favorite word of the day.
So it would really come down to, you know, how you want to manage that. And I think you spoke to a few things there. You know, my responsibility if I'm doing this, my responsibility if I'm the employer in this situation, and ultimately, you know, that as the employer, I've got two things I need to look after. Do I want to retain this person? Yes or no? And secondly, the danger of them defaulting, or no, you know, like not sticking to the agreement. I think these are realities that companies face all the time, maybe in a different context, but just another challenge for the strategists and the PR people to manage. I think personally, if it was an opportunity that I could be given, what better incentive could you have than someone saying you can have off 6 months and come back refreshed and start whatever, do whatever you want with the 6 months. I mean, I think it's an incredible incentive, and we see that in academia, don't we?
Definitely, where
Academics
people take
having their sabbaticals
to go and write, or whatever the case may be, to go and do their, what is the oh my gosh, my English bundles are completed for the day. What is the document called that they go and write? They write a paper.
Thesis or a paper,
Yes, or a research
whatever.
something. There we go. We've got a voice note coming through on 072 702 1702. Oh, okay. We are just trying to load the voice note. There we go.
Relebogile and your guests there. Flores from the beautiful Western Cape. 2013, I went on a 6-month sabbatical. I went to the US. What I did, for 5 years, I only took 1 week's leave from my 3 weeks. So I could save those 10 weeks of leave and ask for an additional 3 months unpaid leave. I went there for 6 months. My friend organized me a part-time job, and within that 6 months, I earned almost a year's salary. So yeah, I was set. So yeah, I plan on doing it in 2028 again, providing good health, and Donald Trump not there to stop my visa application. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Oh, wow. That is quite the plan. Wayne, what are your thoughts on what the listeners shared? That's amazing.
Absolutely. You know, if your employer allows that you know, that those are one of the creative ways in which you can achieve this.
And if the person comes up with a plan, like they were willing to make that sacrifice of reducing leave and being able to take a 6-month sabbatical, which truly sounds like a dream that so many would want to have. So, Wayne, what do you think the future looks like for micro retirement in South Africa?
I think, like anything, if you plan correctly, if your dependents aren't too dependent, you know, your family isn't too demanding, these are all definitely things that can be considered. And I think micro-retirement is a concept, or just a break. We can call it micro-retirement or whatever we want to call it. Just that ability to take out some time and just consider where I am and what I'm doing with my life probably enriches each and every one of our lives in the long run.
And just in terms of the perspective of Institute of Retirement Funds Africa, if a person was trying to build something for themselves, what would be the best way to do it? Are there any, in inverted commas, retirement options available for a person to take a mini break in the middle of their career with the tax benefits? And maybe it is pulling out of your two-pot. I'm not sure. Can you guide us?
Two-pot, of course, if you need to, as an emergency, do. The concept here would be really, when we were speaking earlier on, you having the ability to save for your however long you're going to take out, plus your 3 to 6 months extra. In that should be included your retirement savings. You don't lose your the opportunity cost of not investing. If you're 30 years away from retirement or 20 years away from retirement, the idea is still if you're going to do this, you really need to do it with a fact in your life, not borrow from your future to do this now. And that's essentially what you'll do with a 2-pot withdrawal.
I love how you didn't say win the jackpot and then you can take a 2-year sabbatical. A 2-year mini retirement if you win the jackpot. Wayne, thank you so much for chatting to us about this and just introducing us to this concept. We know that the world is changing and evolving. I firmly believe that there are employers out there and individuals that would be willing to create this for themselves because, people are burnt out, people are stressed, and sometimes they just need 3 months, 6 months, even a year to listen to themselves and their bodies. That is the series edition for the month of March on retirement, primemediaplus.com, or download the app to listen to the other episodes. It's 2:30. Time for your latest Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Good afternoon. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana says the temporary reduction in the fuel levy will cost the economy 6 billion rand in lost revenue. The reduction of 3 rand for both petrol and diesel will be in place for the month of April. Godongwana made the announcement today as a way of cushioning motorists with higher fuel prices set to kick in at midnight. At the same time, the Mineral Resources Department has announced the latest fuel price adjustments for April. Both grades of petrol will go up by 3 rand 6 cents a litre, while diesel will increase by between 7 rand 37 cents and 7 rand 51 cents a litre at midnight. And the family of one of the 5 women arrested in connection with suspected drug trafficking says they were shocked when learning of her arrest. She is one of 5 suspects expected to appear in court this afternoon. The group faces charges linked to possession and trafficking of cocaine valued at 5 million rand. Those are the headlines, this EWN and more at 3 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you are traveling through Erasmus Park heading towards Centurion, there's an accident scene N1 southbound near Rigel Avenue causing huge delays. This is all the way from Garsfontein Road heading into the Joburg CBD. Coming from the Rivoli area, you can also expect about a 20-minute delay on Main Reef Road between Nasrec and Anderson. And there's also faulty traffic lights in Sharon Lee at Malibongo Drive and Mahogany. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Executive Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, Dada Morero, should we be seeing MMCs arguing with somebody who's hijacked a building?
No, they shouldn't be hijacked buildings. Go there, confirm. The officials should take us through on the profiling of that particular building and the processes that they have started, which includes profiling until we're able to get to an evacuation. MMCs, they get carried away and they would want to demonstrate that they're working.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Gear up for glorious Grand Slam success with Hollywood Bets. Take your tennis passion to new heights and feel every stroke, rally and match point as the drama unfolds at the Australian Open, Roland Garros, Wimbledon and US Open. The biggest stages in tennis have been set as the world's best go head-to-head for ultimate bragging rights. Bet now and make every moment count. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Gauteng is currently experiencing high water consumption. To avoid water interruptions, residents are urged to use water sparingly to allow equitable supply. Act now, save water. Every drop counts. This message is brought to you by the Department of Water and Sanitation, Rand Water, Gauteng Provincial Government, City of Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, and City of Ekurhuleni.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
When you're running a small business, you need someone who speaks your language, who understands when you talk innovation, growth, scaling. Someone like MTN Business and 702. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards, from the townships to the suburbs and everywhere in between. We want to talk about you and your business. Go to primemediaplus.com to enter your business or nominate one you know. Because once we start talking about where you are now, you'll be well on your way to reaching your next. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Let's talk shop. T's and more on primemediaplus.com. Coming up
On 702 Drive with John Perlman.
702 Drive is coming up from 3 to 6 p.m. with John Perlman. John, earlier on we were discussing the relationship between poverty, struggle, hardship, and faith. Have
And
you
what, sorry?
and faith?
Faith. Okay.
So, as in, there is a person who was sharing to say when Africans go abroad, they stop being religious because the government systems there provide 90% of what their prayer requests. Now, I'd be curious if you have observed that from the different places you've traveled to, where countries where governments really take care of people, you see less faith or less religion, and where you go to more poverty or struggle-stricken countries, you see more faith.
Sure. I would not be in any way confident of any comment I would make, but I do think faith is a shifting thing, because I know people, for example, who grew up hard,
yes,
but continued to make religion an important part of their lives,
Yes.
even when they were doing better, and maybe the way they engaged with their faith would shift. But I'm speculating hugely. I don't know if the numbers of for example, churchgoers or
Yes.
places of formal religion attendance, I'm struggling for the right word, whether that dips in more affluent countries, I just don't know. There'd be a number for it, and I think there'd be a range of reasons. I mean, the other thing is if religions don't keep faith with changing social values and views, that could be another reason why people become, a bit less interested in going there,
Yes.
because they feel that the person speaking for me and about my faith doesn't really get my life. That could be another reason why people become less observant.
You said so little but said so much.
Oh, good. Well,
Thank you,
thanks.
John Perlman.
For somebody who was talking about something he knows nothing about, I managed to get to pass.
This is why you make the big bucks on talk radio, John Perlman. What's coming up on your show today?
One day. Good afternoon, everyone. So there's a very important study that's come out looking at child poverty, and what's interesting and important for me, Relebogile, is the study looks at what they call multi-dimensional poverty. So it's not just the metrics that we'd ordinarily look at, like food poverty and so on. They're looking at the way in which all kinds of poverty constrain the possibilities of young South Africans. We'll talk about that in more detail after 4. On the subject of money, government has said they're going to drop the fuel levy by 3 rand. That's good news, of course, because petrol will go up by 3 rand less than we feared. But that's money out of the government purse. And that will have to be recovered in some way. I'd love to say, well, they'll be more careful with the money they have. I think all bets are off on the likelihood of that. But it does mean, if this goes on, in April alone, for example, government's shy 6 billion rand.
Wow.
Just on that reduced fuel levy. It might be a little less in May because more fuel is bought probably over Easter than in a typical week in another month. We'll look at how government's going to manage that shortfall, and we'll do that after 5 o'clock. Ad hoc committee looking into police corruption is meeting at the moment. They may be asking for an extension because their time came to an end earlier this month. We'll find out if a decision has been made in that regard. And then a very positive story. Hartbeespoort Dam, for many years suffering with a covering of water hyacinth, which had huge implications both for the natural life that lived there, but also for the supply of fresh and clean water in that part of Northwest. And they're winning that battle. And we'll talk about how and why.
702 Drive with John Perlman coming up from 3 to 6 p.m.
702.
The car feature.
20 minutes to 3 o'clock, and the car feature on 702 Afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja, is brought to you by Stellantis South Africa. And for today in our car feature, we're talking about all you need to know about Code 3 vehicles. Don't worry if you're like, what is Code 3? We have Kreben Reddy, founder and CEO of Credo Mobility, joining us in studio. Your calls with your comments and questions on 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Kreben, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Okay, I feel like we all need to get a recap, like we're doing our learner's license all over again, the K53. Talk to us about the different codes before we start to differentiate Code 3.
Yeah, perfect. So essentially in South Africa, we've got 4 different codes. And just for sort of your listeners' information, the code relates to how that vehicle is coded on what's our central registry system for vehicles, which is basically the eNatus system.
So we're not referring to I have a code 10 license and I have a code 8.
No.
Okay, so that we all are aligned.
Yeah, so this is specific to when that vehicle is either import. So we've got 2 sources of vehicles for South Africa. One is either a vehicle is imported into the country. Alternatively, there is a host of vehicles that are built in country and assembled in country for sale in country.
Yes.
So those vehicles have to first go onto the eNatus system and be registered on eNatus before anything else can happen, before a sale can happen, before a vehicle can be financed, etc. And essentially, the first code would be a code 1. Now, that's a brand new vehicle. You can purchase a vehicle new. You are the first owner of that vehicle. That vehicle will remain a code 1 until it's changed hands again to the next owner.
Oh, I got you. So, brand new, just so we can be super technical, it's 0 kilometers.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
0 kilometers, brand new car with that new car smell, and it doesn't even have a license, anything. That is code 1.
Yeah.
Which one is code 2?
Code 2 is when that vehicle, so let's say you've got a customer or a consumer that's purchased it for the first time. They're now looking to change their vehicle, as an example. Typically what that customer would do is trade in their vehicle, sell it outright on a private-to-private sale, or sell it to one of the car buying services, as an example. When that vehicle is now bought and resold, that vehicle will be registered as a code 2. And any other party after that. So you can have multiple owners. So a car can change hands, 5 or 6 times in its life. It'll always remain as a code 2. And basically a code 2 is referring to the fact that the vehicle is now used. It's not brand new anymore. It's now being registered for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th time or whatever it is. And now the vehicle is a code 2.
Irrespective of if it has 10 kilometers.
Correct. So, and typically you'll find, a consumer might buy a vehicle that's a demo, as an example, as listed as a demo. What that means is either the dealer has taken ownership of that car and registered into their name, and is now selling it with certain mileage that's on it, whatever the mileage is, but it's being sold as a demo. It just means that that vehicle hasn't been sold to an end consumer. It's still within the dealer network almost, or the ecosystem of where it's within the retailer.
Can I just ask a question while we're here talking about demos, so we all are aware? What a number of kilometers or less qualifies as a demo?
Look, I think if you search and look for those vehicles, you probably find between 5 and 10,000 Ks. Is reasonable. It's used within the dealership environment only, hasn't been sold to a consumer.
So that's the test driving,
Correct.
the showing the car and it being the display and all of those things, but the ownership has remained with the dealership.
Correct, 100% correct. 100%
Okay,
correct.
so now we move on to code 3, which is what we're going to be going into detail about today. Which one is code 3? Because code 2 then is your used car. What is code 3?
So technically, a code 3 is when a vehicle's been written off. But so I think maybe what's important for your listeners as well is that a written off vehicle can still be repaired and put back on the road. It depends on the degree of what is written off. Is it structural damage? And that's more the detail we'll get into. But technically, if a vehicle's been written off, it should be then registered as a code 3 on the e-nature system. And that's how all parties can also identify then that this vehicle has been written off, because the coding will change from a 2, which is just used, into a code 3. That vehicle can still be bought and sold and amongst consumers, etc. But technically, it should be then listed as a code 3.
So here's my question then. There is the writing off that your insurance will do. Which writing off are we referring to? Because I think I used to think when a car's written off, it means that it's irreparable. I was shocked when my younger brother saw my old Ford Focus, same number plate, and I was like, this is the trippiest thing, not realizing that the insurance will write it off if it doesn't make financial sense for them to fix it.
Yeah.
So maybe help us understand the code 3, if it is still repairable, even if it doesn't make financial sense, does that still qualify as a write-off, or write-off refers to too expensive to fix? Because in my mind, a write-off should mean you can't be on the road anymore.
Yeah, look, I think this is where the gray sort of area comes in. I would say, the definition of write-off, 99.9% of the time, it's probably referring to a vehicle that's been insured and an insurance company has found this vehicle too expensive to repair. That's probably the mainstream and the bulk of it. In reality, if a consumer's got a vehicle that's freehold, you own the vehicle and it's not insured, and you do have an accident where it's written off, you have the discretion whether to fix it, etc. And you should write it off. But I doubt there's many consumers that might take that route to actually write it off. They will try probably to repair it, especially if it's a vehicle that's not insured. So the bulk then falls into the sort of ambit of vehicles insured by an insurance company. A consumer owns that vehicle, they meet in an accident, the insurance company deems that the cost to repair is more expensive, not worth it for them to repair the vehicle. And generally, it used to be like a 70% of the value of the vehicle was the sort of rule. It's probably changed, and insurers might differ from one to the other. In that scenario, what should happen is that the vehicle should then obviously be coded as a code 3. But again, you get into this area of, is it a write-off based on the value? And now you've got to bring in the context of 70% of vehicles in South Africa are imported in. So the cost is much higher to repair, for us versus, let's say, other regions as an example, and especially against certain brands of vehicles. So if 70% of the vehicles on our roads are imported, you would, assume that 70% of the panels, the parts, everything that's required to repair the car are also imported. And that, increases the cost. So you'd have two scenarios. One is where it's a pure structural damage to that vehicle. It should never be, repaired and put back on the road. It should be classified as a code 3, registered as a code 3, and written off. The gray area falls into where it's uneconomical to repair by the insurer. And typically those vehicles then get sold to, let's say, a business that will salvage them and resell them to an end customer. Customer could be anyone that's looking to buy that vehicle.
So the one place I'm a little bit lost is you said if a person does not have insurance and they get into an accident and it gets written off, who's the one writing it off? Because in the case of if you have your insurance, they're the ones that are going to tell me your car is a write-off. Who's telling the owner, this is a write-off?
Yeah.
Is it the mechanic who says, I can't fix it? Because I imagine some mechanics would not say, I can't fix it. So who's the one that's supposed to come in and say, this is a write-off?
Correct. So the discretion, unfortunately, it lies with the consumer. And it's almost like a
Are we equipped enough for that?
We're probably not. Look, you've got to bear in mind also the factors of affordability.
Yes.
70% of cars on the roads are uninsured. That's the reality of the South African sort of context, right?
Okay, we need to take a break, but when we come back, we'll pick up on this write-off part and then also touch on Code 4 briefly before we get into more details of Code 3.
Part of the 702 family.
Hi, it's Michelle from Krugersdorp. I can absolutely say that my entire life has been consumed by news from the time that I was 4 years old and watched Rian Kruiwagen, and still to today I listen to the news, and it's because it's made me a well-rounded person and understanding what's going on in the world. And I thank the 702 family for that.
Welcome to our 702 family. Let's walk the talk.
From your pet's bowl
to Belito, brew.
or Barcelona, maybe Bordeaux?
How about Brazil?
Or Butts, Betty's, Baviance, Bella Bella, or even Benoni. Buy any Hills pet food and you could win one of 10 holidays worth 200,000 Rand each. Or take the bucks. Scientifically proven formulas for your pet. An adventure for you. Hills Pet Nutrition. Science does more. T's and C's apply.
When was the last time you felt something? Something that ignites your passion, gets your adrenaline pumping, and makes your heartbeat skip. When was the last time you fell in love? Introducing the new Alfa Romeo Junior with 280 horsepower and standard park assist. Learn to love again. Visit alfaromeo.co.za to book a test drive.
Every Easter, alcohol accelerates harms for families in South Africa. Our roads become deadly. Alcohol fuels violence and destroys our communities. This Easter, let's reduce the harms caused by alcohol. Increase excise tax above inflation. Excise tax is protection. For more information, follow the true cost of alcohol.
Running a small business is not just about having a great idea. It's about having the right tools to grow it. That's exactly where MTN Business comes in. Beyond the 702 MTN Small Business Awards, they're doing a lot more to support SMEs. Tomorrow on the Afternoon Drive Show with John Perlman, we'll be in conversation with MTN Business looking at how their connectivity solution tower is helping small businesses stay connected and competitive. So tune in and find out how they can help take your business further to MTN Business. Let's talk shop on 702.
702.
The car feature.
8 minutes to 3 o'clock, and we continue with our car feature for today as we talk about all you need to know about Code 3 vehicles, not a new random Code 3 license that you're like, what are they talking about? We're talking about Code 3 vehicles, and we're joined by Kruben Reddy, founder and CEO of Credo Mobility. 011-883-0702 and the WhatsApp line 072-702-1702. So we were now chatting about who does the writing off. So technically, the onus is on you to, as the owner of a vehicle, if your insurance was not participating, when they come and tow your car and your mechanic says, you're better off buying a new car because it's going to cost you that much to fix, then you say, okay, I'm writing it off. But you're supposed to still go and log that on the eNator site. Unless, of course, the mechanic says, sell it to me for 10,000 at my scrapyard, and then the person usually moves on with their lives.
Yeah, correct. So, I mean, it's a big issue because you're uninsured, so no one's going to pay for that repair. You've got to fund it yourself. And often what you find is then a consumer will take the chance to repair it by using whichever means. And typically it's not, by an approved repairer or an approved panel shop. It might be a backyard type of setup. And then obviously the other option is to sell it as it is. And typically you'll find then the car gets stripped and the parts, it's sold for its individual parts.
Do you need to know as a consumer that the part you are buying, let's say you're buying a second-hand part, came from a written-off vehicle? Do you need to know that this is a Code 3 part?
Yeah, look, you should know, and you should ask the questions. The challenge is that it's not very highly regulated, let's say. The identification of where do these parts come from, how do they end up in a scrapyard, or, insurers also are choosing, often it's got to be based on the terms and conditions that you sign with them, but even an insurer can choose to repair a vehicle using used parts or second-hand parts.
Oh, but those would have to be through a different kind of protocol.
Correct.
To ensure that obviously if they're still paying insurance, it must be a legit situation. Quickly tell us about Code 4.
Code 4 simply is if the vehicle is scrapped. And, a vehicle can be scrapped in many different ways. So one, obviously, through accident. If the vehicle's been technically totally written off, it cannot be repaired, cannot be put back on the road, it should be scrapped. A vehicle could be stolen and stripped. And, you have these situations where all you're left with is the shell of a vehicle or just the body. Then the vehicle will be scrapped. So there is a number of different scenarios where it can be scrapped, but then the code should change again to code 4 on the native system. And in effect, it's a way to block a vehicle from being cloned or the same VIN being reused, etc. In terms of cloning. And that's in essence what the code 4 is.
So it literally is for all of us. All right, we've got your voice notes on 072 702 1702.
Good afternoon. Your guest is not clear on the demo car. Is it sold as a code 1 or code 2? Can he clarify that, because he wasn't clear?
All right, is it sold as a demo, sold as a code 1 or code 2? My understanding is if it arrived at the dealership as a code 1, then the demo part, when you sell it, it's a demo, but it becomes code 2 in the new owner's hands.
100% correct.
Okay.
Technically, the dealer becomes the first owner.
Yes.
And then you become the second owner, which is then code 2.
All right. Next voice
Hi,
note.
Relebogile. Could you kindly ask your guest what does it mean if the airbags are deployed during an accident? Does that tantamount to a write-off? If airbags have been deployed, does that mean the vehicle is automatically a write-off?
Good question. And I've heard many people say, the airbags were out, so it's a write-off.
It's a really good question. So I think the first thing is to understand the airbag is probably one of the most expensive components on the vehicle, and it's for safety measures, etc. I've never seen a scenario where airbags were deployed in a vehicle and it didn't fall into the category of write-off. So you'll find almost every single instance it's a write-off.
And another one says most of the new cars get write-off today because the safety features are compromised, like airbags are sometimes too expensive to replace. Meanwhile, there is minimal damage to the actual car. What is your comment to that one?
Look, there is some sort of validity in that. I think, South Africa is, for the size of our population, the car buying population, we've got vehicles probably, the variety of vehicles that a consumer can choose and the range of costs. So you can find a new vehicle that might not hold up to the same safety standards, as certain other brands, etc. That plays into an issue of when you do get involved in an accident. So you do find that we've got a number of vehicles on our roads that don't have, the required, let's say, NCAP rating. Some of them don't have a safety rating at all, according to our standards, and that does put a consumer more at risk. But in effect, to the listeners' sort of voice note, that does then affect the chances of a vehicle like that being written off quicker and easier because of the cost and airbags deploying or whatever the case is. You will find that those have a higher risk of being written off very quickly, just purely because of the cost factor.
So where can you go? Can you go to the eNatus website to check the code of the vehicle you're trying to buy?
Look, it's not as simple as that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, access to eNatus is not as sort of readily available to the public. You can go to a licensing department, and they would check the VIN for you if you do it. The challenge, I think, in our country, though, is that when the vehicle is coded, it's less of a problem.
Yes.
Because if you had to go and check against the system, you would see what the code is. So whether it's a code 2, code 3, etc. The gray area that we fall in is when a vehicle is supposed to be coded, let's say as a code 3, but remains as a code 2. And then that vehicle gets purchased by someone, gets repaired by an individual, and then often gets put back on the road.
And that's where the problems are. Thank you so much for chatting to us. We truly appreciate your time, Kruben Reddy. Now experience the new Citroen C3, a compact SUV-inspired hatch that brings wow to every drive with smart tech like a 10-inch touchscreen, impressive ground clearance, customized comfort, and standout style. The Citroen C3 is designed to wow you from the moment you start it up. Discover a drive that's big on personality and built for your everyday. Citroen C3, wow, built in. Book a test drive or visit citroen.co.za to find out more.
You hear that? That's the sound of business execution finally visible. No more chasing people and reports. No more disconnected systems. No more guessing if our business is performing or not. iStratGo connects strategy, people, performance, and day-to-day work into one clear software platform, so leaders can see what's working, what's not, and where to focus. Because when execution is visible, everything runs better. Book a demo on iStratGo.com. ISTRATGO.com.
Gauteng is currently experiencing high water consumption. To avoid water interruptions, residents are urged to use water sparingly to allow equitable supply. Act now, save water. Every drop counts. This message is brought to you by the Department of Water and Sanitation, Rand Water, Gauteng Provincial Government, City of Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, and City of Ekurhuleni.
When you're running a small business, you need someone who speaks your language, who understands when you talk innovation, growth, scaling. Someone like MTN Business and 702. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards, from the townships to the suburbs and everywhere in between. We want to talk about you and your business. Go to primemediaplus.com to enter your business or nominate one you know. Because once we start talking about where you are now, you'll be well on your way to reaching your next. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Let's talk shop. T's, C's, and more on primemediaplus.com.
Thank you for joining us on 702 Afternoons. It's 3 o'clock.
This is EWN.
The fuel levy cut to cost the economy billions in April, and Tshwane will have a replacement for Morodi after the Easter break. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana says the temporary reduction in the fuel levy will cost the economy. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana says the temporary reduction in the fuel levy will cost the economy 6 billion rand in lost revenue. The reduction of 3 rand for both petrol and diesel will be in place for the month of April. Godongwana made the announcement today as a way of cushioning motorists with higher fuel prices set to kick in at midnight. South Africans have been panic buying fuel over fear of shortages and increases due to kick in tomorrow. Godongwana says the move to cut the fuel levy was necessary even though they don't know where they will find the revenue shortfall. This audio is courtesy of Newsroom Africa.
Mind you, I don't even know where I'm going to find this money for now.